This is the E-commerce Brain Trust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Brain Trust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Hello and welcome back to the E-commerce Brain Trust podcast. I'm your host, Kiri Masters, and we're back with another installment in my Amazon for CMOs series on this show, where I've been interviewing CMOs ahead of Amazon at Tuft & Needle, our most recent episode. And today I'm replaying an interview that I did with Sarah LaVallee, who is the VP of e-commerce at Wandering Bear, which is a cold brew coffee brand. So I'm replaying this interview as part of this series because if you're just tuning into the show, I have a book coming out in September called Amazon for CMOs. And this book is part handbook about the Amazon opportunity in general and part voice of industry conversations from real retail executives, just like Sarah, who I interviewed on today's show and is also featured in the book. So if you're yourself a CMO or someone who works closely with CMOs, either reporting to them, have a relationship with them in a company, in an indirect way, or perhaps as an agency or consultant yourself, you're likely exposed to a sea of information about Amazon, and it can be very overwhelming at times to figure out what is the right playbook for your brand. What are other companies in your category or just other companies in general doing to react to certain opportunities and challenges with this channel? So in this book, my co-author, Mark Power, and myself dissect Amazon's leadership principles and decision-making frameworks to guide you in making your own decisions within this increasingly important channel. So I'm doing this series on the podcast, talking with CMOs and retail executives, and airing some of the conversations that I had with these folks specifically for the book. So I wanted to let you know about this. For the first few days after launch, the Kindle version of the book will be free, so you can sign up to our mailing list at amazonforcmos.com to get notified when that's live, and you can grab the Kindle version for free. We're also going to have a paperback and Audible version of the book as well, that if you prefer those formats. So go to amazonforcmos.com, or if you're already on the Bobsled Marketing email list, you'll hear about it there as well. So just as a quick bit of background in this conversation with Sarah LaVallee, this was one of my favorite interviews that I've done with a retail exec, because Sarah has quite a few achievements under her belt in the world of e-commerce that you hear about. Currently, she's VP of e-commerce at Wandering Bear, a coffee brand, very competitive category, private company, needs to be profitable. And so when Sarah first came into the business, Wandering Bear was, e-commerce was fairly new to this brand, came from more traditional origins with their sales channel. So Sarah talks about what was necessary there to actually leverage a channel like Amazon to be able to take over incumbents in the space who were, maybe asleep at the wheel a little bit more with the Amazon channel. And so by being really strategic and proactive with Amazon, Sarah was able to take over a lot of really large competitors in the space. Prior to Wandering Bear, she was at the pet company Lovin You, or ILY, where she was director of e-commerce, another challenger brand, up against big giants, where e-commerce was originally, in her words, a hobby for the company, and she developed that sales channel out into a really significant sales and marketing channel. So the theme of this story is how insurgents take over incumbents, leveraging Amazon as a way to take over, to approach giants in the industry and beat them in this channel that is technical, constantly evolving, really needs some leadership, and how she was able to lead both brands into an e-commerce era, if you will. So without further ado, I'm going to replay this conversation with Sarah LaVallee from Wandering Bear. Welcome back to the E-commerce Brain Trust podcast. I'm Kiri Masters, and today I'm joined by Sarah LaVallee, VP of E-commerce at Wandering Bear Coffee. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you for having me, Kiri. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we were just chatting before hitting record here about your career history, and you've been at Wandering Bear for a little while, which is a very new brand. But previously you were at Illy, taking that company from, under $1 million to over 10 million in 3 years in revenue. So what I wanted to talk with you about today is that contrast of brand experience, particularly as it pertains to Amazon and marketplaces, because you're really tasked with two very different objectives with those two companies.
Yeah. So I started at Lovin You in 2016. And at the time, I was hired to be the natural director who also does e-commerce. But I knew very early on, okay, there's something here. There's something different about this brand, about the people building the brand, where I really felt maybe we can flip this over. I think we can be more of an e-commerce brand. So in that first year, truthfully, e-commerce was really kind of a hobby for Lovin You. We had, I want to say, maybe 60 or 70 ASINs, okay content. We had a great broker partner that was helping us with our strategy, but it wasn't really something the organization was fully rallying behind.
I've heard that before.
So, yeah, I feel that's pretty common.
Yeah.
So, my first year journey at ILY was very common to what some of my other e-com folks have told me. It was really about rallying the org, right? Mm-hmm. So we had to prove the concept to everyone inside Lovin You to say, hey, marketing, we need content. Hey, operations, let's look at e-commerce exclusive packaging options, And that was really my first year at ILY. And after that first year, we really proved out the concept just by tinkering, right? And getting those e-commerce basics correct, right? Sharpening up marketing, making sure our PDPs were keyword optimized, variated properly, no content was broken, getting all the marketing basics right, polishing up operations, making sure we had a really good business strategy, and then are we measuring the right things? That was year one. After year one, we decided, okay, so this is going well so far. We got the board behind us. We had the organization behind us. Let's put on the gas a little bit. We started to really amp up our investments in AMS, and we began dipping our toe in the AMG pool, now known as DSP. So many acronyms we have to remember, but
yeah.
Yeah, so we leaned in. And I think that's really what you have to decide to do, right? If you're going to play on Amazon, you have to decide, okay, are we going to go for it, or are we just going to be here? Anyone who's just there, it's not really taking advantage of all the great things Amazon has to offer. So we leaned in, and we started to see the business accelerate month over month, and had some, really great strategic vision for what we could do with the brand. And we were up against some really big players, the Blue Buffaloes of the world, Purina, Nestle. These folks are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month just on AMS, driving CPCs for terms like dog food up to over $60.
Wow.
So we were small fish in the big sea, and we, fast forward, we did so well. We were truly an insurgent brand, taking on these huge incumbents that had teams and teams of people to optimize absolutely everything from a PDP to the AMS to the DSP. And here we were, and we were eating their lunch. And so really proud of the work that we did as a team, because we went from, not even a top 50 brand to a top 25 brand by the time I left in January. So very, very exciting.
That's amazing. And not to diminish the hard work and innovation that took place at Lovin You during that time, but do you think that your competitors were aware of what was going on, or complacent in a way? Or do you think that they were really had dug their heels in as well at the same time?
So yes. to all of those things. What's unique about the pet industry is that they're very how do I want to say this? The pet industry is very difficult because there are some brands that are so loyal to the independent pet specialty channel that they are totally adverse to e-commerce. And because I grew up in pet, my career was in pet, I knew who those guys were. From the very beginning, I'm picking them off. I'm conquesting them because I know that folks are looking for them, but they're not playing on the platform. So, I mean, that was very basic, like know who your competitors are, know the landscape, know who's taking the channel seriously, and go for the low-hanging fruit first. So we did that. Now, after a while, the more we invested and the bigger we grew within Amazon, people started to notice. And so it became very costly for us to even defend our brand name. Obviously that pie chart of where you're spending your money in all your campaigns, defensive campaign spend increased as a result of us increasing our presence on the platform. So for a period of time, a portion of our competitors were asleep at the wheel. There were other folks that simply didn't pay us any mind because here we were coming up from the bottom, right? But we weren't in like that top 10 sphere. But I tell you, at the end of my 3-year run there, people were coming after us, and we were able to see exactly who and what keywords through partners like Profitero. And so it was very interesting to see that evolution over those 3 years.
Yeah. Tell us how you use tools and services during that time. Because you just mentioned Profitero, which is an analytics tool that pulls data out of Vendor Central to show market share and things like that. So what kind of tools did you use and find to be helpful during that time?
We used Profitero. They were our primary tool. And exactly to your point, Carrie, we used them to measure the space, the pet space on Amazon. And we broke it down categorically. So in all 6 categories that we played in, dog dry, cat dry, canned, raw treats, we were able to see what brands we were up against there. And then also just a rolled up who has the share of voice in pet on Amazon. Without giving away too much of the strategy, if you can think, that information was very valuable to us. So we were able to really pick and choose where we invested in terms of competitive campaigns and tactics. Profitero was also great for us because we had them doing price scrapes. So on a different topic, they were helping us enforce math by giving us time-stamped validated data that showed who was the first mover on pricing for us. So we were able to appropriately, quote unquote, go after the right platform to try to correct the underlying issues. So great partnership with Profitero. Really 2 great programs that we use them for that I found very useful.
That's great to know. Good. I'll invoice them for the ad later on.
Yep, please do. I love those guys, though. Really. And you know what? Just side note as a plug, they're a super responsive team. And when you're a one-woman show like I was, you really need partners that are going to pick up the phone when you call, that are going to be able to answer your questions in a timely manner. I was really impressed with them. They were a really great resource for me.
That's really good to hear. And speaking of the one-woman show analogy, I hear this a lot from the people who are leading Amazon, specifically within organizations, is that, to your point, Amazon kind of exists as a microcosm. You need to get everyone on board, from operations and your warehouse team through to the brand team, so you can get assets, and you need the finance team on board to approve, how much you're going to spend on ad budgets and things like that. It's just running an entire business within a business. And often the person in charge of that is completely alone, and they might be dealing with Amazon plus other marketplaces plus the e-commerce channel. So it is a tall order to do for that kind of role.
I totally resonate with everything you just said. Yes, it was. And I'll tell you, I love it personally, but absolutely the case. Yeah, I Am Lovin You, I was a one-woman show. I had shared resources, so I can't claim that it was just me. I mean, from time to time, I was able to, marketing would help with creating ad units and on the digital side, right? But yeah, again, rallying the org, getting everybody to understand why this is important. Why should operations, be layering in, in the process to label individual units for sale on Amazon? Or why should we look at creating a variety pack because the e-commerce shopper is so different from the brick and mortar shopper? Yeah. So all of these various business units, you have to be the one grabbing everyone by the shoulders and saying, come on, guys, let's take this seriously. If we do this, it's going to pay off. And I have to say, Carrie, I've been very lucky at I Am Lovin You. It took time, but we did it. And it proved out very well for us. And here at Wandering Bear, coming on board even before I joined, just to say, okay, this is what we're going to need to do to really kill it in e-com. Are you ready? And they said, yes, absolutely. So, knowing that I know what it takes, that is something that I look for when I was exploring new opportunities. Is this an organization that's going to rally?
Well, yeah, let's shift gears to Wandering Bear then. And so tell me, was this a company that was sold in brick and mortar stores and then moved to e-commerce, or did everything at once?
Actually, Wandering Bear has been around since 2014, founded by Matt Bachman and Ben Gordon, and it began in the office channel. So they really decided that there was a need in the office channel for a high quality, premium, organic cold brew that didn't exist. So we were born there, and it remains our biggest channel to date.
So
and
selling to corporate offices, WeWork spaces.
Yes.
What is the office channel?
The office channel is selling into, Fortune 500 companies right down into smaller offices. I can't say who we're in because of NDAs, but we're in some very, very huge offices throughout the U.S. And so we have a really cool business model in that we're capturing folks at the office with that brand awareness that it's essentially an 8-hour demo during the workday.
You've got a captive audience.
It truly is. I'll tell you. And I'm not saying this because I work here, but I am saying it because I work here. Our coffee is damn good. And so once you try our coffee, you love it. And so the office channel has been a phenomenal springboard for the business, for the brand, for everything. And it continues to be a really strategic focus for us today. So to answer your question, we were born in the office channel. Then we went to brick and mortar. And I came on board in January of this year, right as we were taking our coffee from perishable to shelf stable. So really giving us the opportunity to get into e-commerce in a meaningful way.
I imagine that was a big accomplishment, both from the food engineering side and then on your side, to actually launch this brand, which already had good brand awareness because of being available in office spaces. But this is a brand new product to e-commerce for your brand. And so what was your plan to enter the market with a splash and extend beyond the office worker who was already familiar with your product?
Sure. I mean, we know that grocery is a huge category for Amazon, and coffee is the number one category in grocery, or at least it is today. So for us coming onto platform, it was, again, following those e-com 101 basics. Let's get the basics right in terms of pricing, packaging, PDP content, assortment, and then rolling that out as our items become shelf stable. We're rolling out more and more ASINs. We're creating variety packs because the e-commerce shopper shops very differently than the brick and mortar shopper. And so it's all about looking at the catalog and the assortment and then doing the things that you need to do to succeed, leaning in with AMS and DSP, having a really great lower funnel strategy in terms of coupons and best deals. And so that's really how we are arriving on platform.
So back to the point that you raised around assortment's really interesting. How do you know and then plan your assortment around what's selling really well in stores versus online?
I think when I talk about assortment, I think I'm talking more pack size and price.
Okay.
So let's take, at Lovin You, we sold dog and cat cans. And we know that when a cat food shopper goes into a grocery store, they're going to pick, one chicken, one salmon, and they're just going to grab variety of things and put in the cart because they think their pet wants variety. So in e-commerce, we would typically sell our single protein, chicken in a 12 or a 24 count, but that would retail for $30. So when we're bringing all kinds of new customers into the funnel, are we going to be able to convert them on a 24 case, $30 ASP item?
Right.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But a 12 count, less of a commitment, $12.99, $15.99 ASP, yeah, maybe. And similarly, at Wandering Bear, we have 11-ounce coffee on the go. And so on Amazon, we don't sell those by the onesie because it's unprofitable. Yeah. So we even sell them by the 12 count. Can we get a brand new Wandering Bear, customer that's discovering the brand to pay for a 12 count when they've never even tried us? So we are launching out of the gate with a variety pack and lesser packs as more trial driving items.
And so have you found from looking at the analytics that are available in Amazon that assuming that you're either taking a hit or it's very low profitability on that trial or sample kind of program, are you finding that you're getting more repeat shoppers through that effort?
Yes. And what I will say, part of my Ecom 101 basics is making sure your items are profitable. So I've never launched with a loss leader. Even, and I'm in beverage now, very heavy, lower ASPs, but being profitable in the channel is important. So even on those lower packs at ILY here at Wandering Bear, it's very important to have profitable items because those are going to be your drivers for a long time, especially if a brand is going to increase their investment in DSP. The more folks you put into that funnel, you're going to be selling a lot more trial driving items. And then you can always retarget them with a full size later on. But initially that funnel is going to be full of new users.
Yes. So you're digging yourself a deeper and deeper hole profitability wise if you're bringing so many people into the funnel through DSP or awareness marketing and they're all doing the trial pack, then I mean, if you've got an endless pile of cash on the side, it's okay, but it's not usually the case.
True. Us smaller brands have to be very strategic with our efforts, and we have to think of the long game in terms of that. Yeah, we're going to be constantly bringing new folks in. Profitability is always important.
So you mentioned DSP is driving some of that awareness. I'd love to get your thoughts on how to make Amazon DSP, which is, for anyone listening that doesn't know, demand-side platform. It's Amazon's display or programmatic ad program, which had, I'd say a couple of years ago, faced a bit of criticism for promising a lot of analytics and a lot of customer journey data. Now I think it's a lot better and it really delivers on that promise. Give me your thoughts on DSP and why you think it might have gotten a bit of a bad rap in the past.
That's a great question. I'm not sure why DSP may have gotten a great rep in the past. We've never had an issue getting any of the data we requested, but I always found as part of the business partnership is to develop meaningful relationships with my counterparts at Amazon. We were always able to get the data that we needed that they were able to give us, right? I mean, they're never going to tell you exactly who Sally customer is, where she lives, but they can give general information. So I think anyone looking for very specific information about who's buying their products is going to be disappointed.
Right.
Through ARA Premium, we were able to match the DSP data we got back from Amazon and also do some back of napkin math to determine how many of our customers at ILY were new consumers of ours and how many were repeat customers. So I think it's all about tinkering and knowing what to look for and knowing what to ask for within Amazon, because it won't always be just handed to you.
Yeah.
The tough thing about what we do is always asking, and trying to find another way, being like water, always find another way.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think a lot of resistance that brands have is that Amazon is a walled garden and Google is a walled garden and Facebook is a walled garden. So for you to actually see customer journey from A to Z, when we know so much channel switching's going on, someone might learn about your brand from Instagram and then check out your website and then see a retargeting ad, from your brand, but then go over to Amazon to actually see if they can buy it there because they find it more convenient or whatnot. You will just never get that end-to-end customer view because all of those platforms are going to hold your data within their walled garden. And that's their prerogative, I guess. But like you said, there are ways to, got to really invest in doing the legwork yourself or a few different software tools to stitch this together. But you can get somewhat toward that point of understanding what the customer journey is.
It's true. That was also very frustrating for us, now that you bring that up, that it was very hard for us to know if folks were jumping channels, jumping platforms, jumping accounts, right? One day the husband orders, the wife orders, is it going to the same? So yeah, it's very difficult. And ultimately we want to prove the lifetime value of bringing in a new consumer. How do you do that? How do you do that when you don't get that data? So you just a bit of marketing math when you get there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey. There's so many good nuggets in here about looking at the, being profitable across every SKU, which I think, sadly, a lot of e-commerce companies don't do well in their e-commerce channel, using DSP strategically, using software tools to really dig into your category and see how you can grow share. Anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with in terms of tips, things that you see other brands doing wrong too much?
Yeah, get the basics right. Get the basics right. And you see that in every category across the platform. Amazon can be, in many ways, a great place to tell your story. And you do that through great content. And that is the one thing I see that is broken more than anything. The bullets are off, the photos are off, the titles are confusing, the variations are confusing. Get those basics right. And you'll really be able to increase your share, drive conversion, and it's a great representation of your fantastic products, really.
Right. Great point. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.